This episode of the Neurodivergent Experience is brought to you by RTN Mental Health Solutions. With up to a 5-year waiting list for autism and ADHD assessments via the NHS, and that's even if you get a referral from your GP, getting an assessment in the UK has never been harder. So if you're like me and can't wait anymore, going private may be the best option for you. RTN offers online assessments for kids aged 6 right up to adults, with prices starting at £900. To make it more accessible, RTN can offer payment plans up to 5 months. You can access their remote services from the comfort of your home anywhere in the UK, and RTN offers group and one-to-one counselling, a private route to access ADHD medication following the assessment, and will even fight for you if your GP doesn't accept the results. So if you live in the UK and can't wait to get an assessment, go to www.rtnmentalhealthsolutions.com and use the discount code RTN23, making it even more affordable for all of our listeners to get an autism and ADHD assessment.
Hello, I'm George. Oh,
Every time. Everyone thinks they've got it.
No. I said, as soon as you press record, I'm going to it up. I knew it. I knew that was going to happen. Right, ready?
Here we go. Right, let's do it again.
Hello, and welcome to the Neurodivergent Experience. I'm Jordan James, also known as the Autistic Photographer, and I'm joined by my co-host and very best friend, Simon Scott.
Hello, it's another week, another episode of the Neurodivergent Experience, and this week we are talking about changing schools.
Ooh.
Hello, Mr. Jordan James.
Hello, Mr. Simon Scott.
That's me. How's it going? You okay?
Yeah, no, I've had a really, really fun week.
Yeah, good holiday.
Yeah,
again.
I've been away again. I just, my house is just like a place where I just like stick my stuff and then I just go off somewhere. That's hyperactivity for you. But yeah, no, we were in Cornwall visiting my beautiful baby girl, who obviously was on this podcast, doing probably the most popular episode we've had, actually.
It actually has been, yeah.
Yeah,
what does that say about us?
Well, we're useless and she's amazing. I'll probably put that out there.
Yeah.
She's absolutely boss girling it down there, living independently. My little autistic ADHD daughter, absolutely kicking butt. She's organised. She's doing electricity and gas and internet and sorting out builders who are coming to fix like things that are wrong in the house that she's renting. She organised 3 other housemates who she is essentially in control of.
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, she's just gone full dictator on them. But yeah, no, she is absolutely living life, and she's only 20 / about 12 in the head, which is pretty much most of us.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I loved it so much. Sylvia and I have decided that 10 to 12 years' time, we are absolutely going to move to Cornwall. So that is now my hyper focus.
No, that's awesome. I mean, Cornwall is absolutely stunning. Every time I've ever been there, I've loved it. I've been on a couple of family holidays, whether that was catching a bit of surf or doing some walking with the pooch and just seeing some pretty sights. Like we went to St. Ives when I was a kid. Absolutely loved it. They're beautiful place. Went to St. Michael's Mount as well. The castle that gets hidden by the tide, all this sort of thing. Absolutely beautiful part of the country. You wouldn't think it was England on a sunny day.
No, literally, it's like tropical. It's unbelievable. We went swimming. The water was freezing in one part, and that was Cayenne's Cove. It was so cold. I literally lost my in-between bits. They went inside my body.
Never to be seen again.
Oh, well, I mean, they came back.
It is warm.
Just to make sure.
Okay, that's fine. That's good to know. Okay, so what are we talking about this week, Jordan?
Well, I want to talk about your beard because I see. Yeah. You need to watch this, everybody. Go to our YouTube channel, watch us. We are very, very handsome. It is worth it. But I'm just loving the fact that you've gone the full beard. I assume it's because of me. I am your inspiration for everything.
So What I would what I would say is people may go, "Oh, what an interesting aesthetic choice that Simon has made, growing a beard." No, I normally have a mustache, but I don't have any medication, and I've not been asked to do anything about it. Hence why I now have a beard. Yeah, we can do a poll. Keep the tash or grow a beard. My mum wants me to grow a beard. My girlfriend wants me to keep a tash.
No, ignore her.
Invalid. No,
you know I'm the most important lover in your life.
Well, I don't really have much choice, do I?
I impose my will on everyone.
Yes, he does. But no, I've just got a beard at the minute, and it's all right. But I tell you what, it's very nice to stim on. People go, "Oh, what's he thinking about?" He's not. He's just having a bit of a moment.
If anyone can hear this, can you hear? Oh, that's some good stimming.
Beard ASMR.
Also, you can do that like wise man, like just stroking the beard. I'm very, very smart.
Yeah, I'm not quite at like the elder dragging it down, wisping it over my shoulder sort of thing. But
you can pretty much say anything. You'd be like, I believe that unicorns and fairies are real. And then people go, "Oh, I believe that too," because you are a strokey beard man, and therefore you know what you're talking about.
I'll sit in the corner of a pub and I go, "Yes, I've been on many quests, many adventures, seeking out the darkest parts of the world. I went to an Aldi once." Yes, great.
And people wonder why we were bullied.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
yes.
We're talking about moving schools, which is something
certainly are.
We have both done. For
unfortunately,
very similar reasons, but it's also something, obviously, with my kids moving from primary to middle school. So we're going to talk about that. So let's start with you. I know it's amazing. I want him to talk. Everybody, how crazy is that? Yeah,
let me.
Yeah, I'm letting you in, like deep,
it's a safe space.
Deep in.
It's a safe space.
You're going to be deep in me. in.
God, you can tell Deadpool's back in the zeitgeist, can't you? Crikey.
I haven't watched it yet.
It's great. It's great. Marvel's back in a big way. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
About me. Blimey. Well, where did we want to start with this episode? Because we were trying to figure it out. I've been to 3 schools before I did my GCSEs. So I'm technically moved twice. I left school when I was 6 or 7, and then moved schools again when I was 14. But the reason as to why I wanted to talk about it specifically for this episode, John, is I've had an email from somebody who I know out in the world, the real world. I know people. And they sent me a message about their son, Joseph. I'll keep all of the names anonymous, but I just thought I'd read this out because this is where I've wanted to start this episode from.
Okay, that sounds good, man.
Sure. So, while I understand how brilliant Joseph is, we are having such a difficult time at school. The school is not listening to Joseph or us as parents. I will continue to advocate for him, but I am amazed at the lack of understanding by so-called professionals. Writing is a challenge for Joseph. To order his thoughts on a page takes so much perseverance, yet I am told he is still behind his peers and must try 10 times harder than the rest. I challenged this teacher that Joseph was already trying 100 times harder to be in the classroom environment, and she must find a way of scaffold learning that is appropriate for Joseph. Sadly, I was met with the response that she has 31 other children and is unable to do this. I am told that my son is disruptive to others and struggles to focus. This teacher's solution was to sit Joseph at the front of a classroom facing the wall with the board, the teacher, and everyone else behind him for up to 6 hours. At this point, Joseph's dad had to walk out of this meeting to stop himself. Me too. To my pure amazement, this teacher asked what was wrong with my son. Well, she has ostracized a young child and told us that in her opinion, he cannot be with others because it would be a choice between socializing and access learning. We as parents have decided to change school. The problem I am now faced with is a lack of school places. I have only found one other school that will accept my son, and having looked around, I am not sure it is the right environment for him. We are spending our weekends writing letters to the board of schools and governors, arranging more meetings at a school, and drafting a letter as a formal complaint. My son Joseph is so brilliant, I just need to find that one person that is willing to listen to us. Wow.
Well,
Now,
we are
here.
two. We're two people that are definitely. We hear you. I have unfortunately heard many situations exactly the same as this. It's like literally, you're reading that out, and I'm like, yeah, I've heard this before. I
and you're going
haven't.
to hear it again because it's my experience too. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's sickening. It's sickening because once again we are being ostracized. Once again we are being left out. So we are going to do this episode, and we're going to do it in honor. We're going to do it in honor of Joseph and Joseph's parents. This one is for you and for all the parents out there who are struggling in the exact same way. And I know there are millions. It's not hundreds. It's not that. It's millions of kids are being lost in this system. Millions of neurodivergent, brilliant minds, brilliant potential, beautiful kids are just being failed by this system.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got that email through a connection through my dad, and after speaking to him on the phone, after reading this email, he went, nothing's changed in 20 years. He says, this is exactly what happened to you. And it is. I was in a school till I was 6 or 7, so it would have been halfway through year 3. Not good with ages and school years. And
me neither.
I don't really remember school much before that. And this is the thing, is I wasn't bad at school. I guess I just had all of the things that apparently Joseph has. He's a distraction. He doesn't try hard enough, all of this crap. And my parents took me out of school, and I remember about a month of not being in school and being so confused by it. And my parents ended up having to put me in a school that they had to pay for. I went to private school, and it wasn't a Tory thing or anything like that. It was so that I could get an education and get a good one. And, my dad had to take on extra work. My mum had to go back to work, and it completely changed our family dynamic because at about 6 or 7 years old, I have always had the burning question of what is wrong with me? Why don't I fit in? Why can't I be like everybody else? Am I ever going to be normal? And it's not that your childhood comes to an end, but there is a big asterisk over it because you don't feel like a normal kid. And going into a new school is really hard, especially if you are a masking individual, because that's when the mask almost sears onto the bones. It doesn't break. It becomes really hard to be yourself again because you're just trying to fit in. It's so hard.
It becomes your personality for life until you start letting that part of you go. And I think we discussed this before. It's like I don't know who I am. Where am I my mask or am I my true self? But I don't think that they're actually different anymore. I think that they're just a combined being that is me. And I always wonder what I would be like if I hadn't had to do that. I wonder if I'd be a happy, more well-adjusted human, or would I be even more annoying than I already am now? I mean, I know that's hardly possible, but it's possible.
Yeah, I do wonder about what would have been different in my life had the school system not failed me. Because at 14, when the financial crash hit, we couldn't go to that school anymore because it just wasn't viable for my family. And
another horrific upheaval for you.
Another huge, huge upheaval. And I had to go to a school that I didn't want to go to. And my parents have spent a lot of conversations with me saying how much they regret putting me in that school, but they did the best with what they had, as I'm sure a lot of parents that are listening to this that have had to take their kids out of school. You don't have a lot of answers. You're just doing the best that you can. And unfortunately for me, I ended up in a really toxic, difficult school year. And because it was a small school with a class of only about 30 kids, obviously you'd think having a neurodivergent kid in that class, they'll get more attention. You're right. Not the right kind of attention.
No, never is.
You become a bit of a target for everybody that's having a bad day, whether it's a teacher or a student. It's hard. And trying to find a place to hide in a small school is also extremely hard. So there are a lot of my like mental health issues that I've had through life come from the big upheaval in school, having to move schools. But then what is the alternative, Jordan? Do you take kids out of school and give them a chance somewhere else with the risk of, deep mask, rejection sensitivity disorder, feeling ostracized? Or do you just keep them in a school environment that's completely and utterly failing them and just hope for the best? Like, for me, it just feels like there is no true win-win scenario. There's always a big sacrifice that's going to have to be made for the benefit of your kid.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was always really, really difficult because obviously I had my own troubles in school. We've discussed this in the bullying episode and things like that. I never really fit in. I always tried to be someone I wasn't. It's sort of, you know what, the amount of times that I will just talk about it and it just sounds like I'm a record repeating because it keeps happening to other NDs. It's something that I think that I've connected with other NDs than actually being ND is how we've been treated, because obviously we keep saying, being the alternative neurotype is different for everyone, but the way we're treated always seems to be so similar, like too similar, unnecessarily and horrifically similar. Yeah, I moved schools multiple times. One time it was, it was because it was weird. It was like I was at this other school, and for some reason they decided to do GCSEs a year earlier. I think that there was something going on with the educational system, and that school was quite far away. I don't know why I was going there, to be honest, but I don't think I just wasn't ready. So I ended up getting put into another school. So my GCSEs were, pushed back to the usual amount. So I had another year, but I was literally just thrown into this other school and I didn't really know what I was doing. And I was there for a year and it was the worst year of my schooling life. And I actually ended up having an actual breakdown, and I was having severe night terrors. I still see the faces of the kids that bullied me. And I don't want to go into it, but it was physical, it was mental, it was just pure abuse from people pretending to be my friend just so they could find stuff out about me to use against me, to people spitting and punching and smashing my head into things. And I became violent because I had to protect myself. I became violent because of that treatment. I was never, ever as violent as I was until I went to that school. And eventually I just said, I'm not going in. And I actually refused to come out of my room. The only time I left my room was to go to the toilet. And like my family would just bring me food. Otherwise I'd have starved because I didn't leave my house. I barely left my room. That was nearly 2 months. And eventually they found a different school and I reinvented myself. I started doing weights and I loved basketball so much back in the day. I realized that I had to get into football just to be able to fit in. So my love of football literally comes from just having to do, we talk about masking. That's my love of football literally comes from me trying to fit in. My love of football was me masking. It was me masking my love of basketball, which is now back, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy. But yeah, I reinvented myself as this sort of tough guy character, which eventually is what I became. I became violent. I became, the kid that, or keep away from that kid. You never know what he's going to do. You never know when he's going to snap. And I was unpredictable. And that anger, that anger has never really left me. And it's horrible because I live with it every day, is that anger of that treatment that I went through as a kid. And that upheaval of just desperately trying to fit in. And it's that will never leave me, dude.
No, as your God, that eidetic memory is a gift and a curse, isn't it? As you're talking, it's frightening. I know the tagline from this podcast we've used before is, even though our experiences overlap, no two stories are the same, but crikey, the amount of stories that are frighteningly similar with a neurodivergent experience, especially around school. Oh, it pisses me off, man. It really upsets me because there are so many kids out there where I'm like, oh, I know exactly how you feel. And yeah, it's so hard to convey or help these kids. It's like I've heard this email about young Joseph, and I find it hard to read all the way through without crying. And who says we don't have empathy, eh? But
idiots,
yeah. But it's the fact that that email that I've received is written 20 years after I went through that. And it's like, wow, why has nothing changed? Why has absolutely nothing changed? And it just sickens me. Even when we talked to Brett, who talked about his wonderful son and the difficulties that he's gone through with the fact that he found him this amazing school and they've closed it. It's like, Christ, you give it, and it's even worse giving it and taking it away. But you're talking about struggling with aggression and that rage. I have it as well, even though I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a violent person at all, but I internalize everything to an extreme level, to the point of I'm my worst when I'm mute. It's like, if you don't hear anything from me, you know I'm in bother. And that's kind of as one of my signs of that I'm having a bit of a wobble. But the amount of crap that I can remember from people at school, some of the crap that people said to me, I can still hear it now. I can still see their faces. And it's not that it happens when I think about it. It's when I'm doing something that somebody bullied me about, and then suddenly it's like it just flashes across my face, their face, what they've said to me, and how it made me feel. And suddenly I don't want to do the thing I was enjoying doing. It's like you with basketball. For me, it was wrestling. Hid pro wrestling, being a fan of pro wrestling for years and years, because I thought, well, no one will be my friend if I like wrestling. No one will take me seriously. They'll be like, oh, it's fake. Yes, I know. And all of this crap. And it's like, oh, you'll never get a girlfriend, blah, 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 blah. And you hide these things about yourself. It's not even a case you hide them. You cut them off you. And you just kind of cast it away in the hope of trying to fit in. And teachers should be able to recognize when this is happening. They should be able to look at kids and go, that kid's having a tough time, whether they're neurodivergent or neurotypical or not. They shouldn't, look at your kids as a production line and go, well, that one's faulty, but these other 30 are doing great, so I'm actually succeeding. You're not. You're failing a child. And it just upsets me so much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to do something unusual. I'm actually going to be nice for once.
Okay,
and I have to admit, I do feel so sorry for so many teachers because I've done loads and loads of talks in schools, and I've got friends who are teachers, and the problem that they have is the training that they receive is one, bare minimum. It's bare minimum, right? It's a bit like, oh, I'm going to go and be a police officer, so I'm going to do all my police officers training, but I'm going to do one single day of autism or ADHD training or PTSD training. One day is not enough to learn, because we might be a minority, but we are a very, very large minority. There is a hell of a lot of neurodivergent people out there who do not act the way in which you expect. Now, the police aren't trained in this, nurses aren't trained in this, doctors aren't trained in this. Things are changing. The NHS is now doing like official neurodivergent training, which was set up by Paula McGowan due to the loss of her son. It really motivated her to say, okay, they need to be trained, and that's fantastic. But, she was trying to get that same training, which is by neurodivergent people for neurodivergent kids in schools. And they kept pushing back. They said, no, they receive all the training they need. I think evidence is contrary to your sentence of they have.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's budgeting. I think it's cognitive dissonance. I think it's just pure and utter flipping arrogance of the people in charge. So it's not like the teachers are going, we don't want that training. I think a lot of the time it's like the head teachers or school governors and county councils. They're so far up their own backsides, you don't know where one of them begins and the other one ends, because they all think they're so superior, but they won't talk to the people that actually know what they're talking about.
Because then they'll realize they don't know anything. This is the problem with people that think they know everything. They play it safe and they keep the world small because then they know everything. And again, just I'm fine. I feel like now I'm talking about it, Jordan. I'm a little bit lost for words because I forget how much of an effect school had on me as a person. Like, I remember so many times my mum coming home and being like, "Did you have a good day at school?" And just going, "Yep." Even though I had a crap day at school, I probably got hit that day or got put in a headlock and loads of people nicked my stuff and threw it everywhere and all this sort of thing. And you just go, "Yep, I'm fine." And that just deepens the mask and feeling ostracized, because I wanted to be a happy kid. I didn't want my parents to worry about me. I wanted them to feel like everything was fine. I wanted to feel like everything was fine. And when you hear, what you're saying about how there are people that don't want the training, they don't want to hear, then why are you doing it? What's the point if you're not going to help people? That I know that seems black and white, but that's kind of the thinking that I have of it. Is when we're doing this podcast, we're doing this podcast with a purpose. We're trying to give somebody an outlet to not feel alone, to have their experiences reflected on it, and cathartic. It's great for you and me to talk about our experiences and how we're feeling. It's good for us. But yet, what is the point of somebody hearing all of this information, being able to look at it plainly on a piece of paper and go, "Here's where we can improve. Here's where we can help a vast majority of society that's neglected," and they just go, "Can't be asked." Like, what can we do with that? How can we work through that or improve things in a system that can't be asked?
Okay, so there are, like I said, there are a lot of really great teachers out there that actually go and find this stuff out themselves. They might go through their 40-minute training seminar on how to, I don't know, restrain an autistic child who is having a meltdown, which, by the way, if you do that, you're an absolute git. That is not what you do, but that is still something that is taught by a lot of trainers, especially in the US. But essentially, if you're a teacher out there and you're listening to this podcast, you've already made the step in the right direction of the fact that you care enough to actually take the time to learn something. And I encourage this for all professionals, all parents, who have, and by the way, I say who have neurodivergent people in their lives. Every single person has neurodivergent people in their lives. You will always come across neurodivergent people in your life, whether it's in your workplace, whether it's in the supermarket, whether it's, in schools, whether it's in your own house. We are everywhere. I don't know, spoiler alert, we are everywhere and we are not going away. We are not diseased. We're not ill. We are alternative. We are the alternative neurotype. And we are supposed to exist. And all you have to do, people in positions of authority, is understand that and actually give a crap. Just give a crap, because most of the time I find they don't. But like I said, I've met a lot of people that really, really do, and they really, really try. Wonderful head teachers who go the extra mile for training for their kids. It is good to see, but it's not standard, and it should be standard, because for what happened to us, that was what happened to me was 30 years ago. What happened to you was 20 years ago, and it's still happening, and that's not okay. So whatever training they're getting isn't enough. It's not working. I don't know what else to tell you. Everyone out there, it's not working. Change it, you absolute pillocks.
If it was working, it would be working. It isn't working, so make a change.
Do you know what I find funny? I was like, I'm going to be nice.
Yeah, I know. This is the thing. Is like
pillocks.
I know. It's like we start off and we're like,
nice.
well, let's do an episode. What should we talk about? And then I get a bit emotionally opened up, and I'm like, right, let's just reel that in a bit. My brain stops working, and then you just go, right, I'm gonna be nice. You're a pillock. I could have called you something else, but I didn't. So that's me being nice.
This is me being nice. I had other words, and that's the nicest one I can find.
Yeah.
No, honestly, I actually get riled up because I'm watching you, and I can see your eyes mist over, and I can see how upset you're getting, and I'm like, my friend's upset, and I'm gonna
yeah.
And I get really, really angry.
I get exactly the same when I see you get riled up and upset about things. This is just, who says we don't have empathy? We have too much, but. Yeah, this topic is difficult because it's not like it's not happening. Right now, while we are recording this on a mid-afternoon, there is some kid on his lunch break with his head in his hands who's feeling ostracized. And it's not that, talking about it obviously upsets me because it happened to me. But it upsets me even more knowing that it's still freaking happening. And nothing has changed in 20 years, let alone 30 years. And from a couple of people that we've spoken to, heck, people we've spoken to this morning, it's not just happening in the past 10 years, it's happening today. It's happening now. And that is the frightening thing. You may listen to this podcast in a year's time, 5 years' time. Amen, I hope that we are there. We are where we need to be, where we're making changes, where kids are finding their gifts and they're being nurtured and grown. It's like I read about young Joseph. Apparently, he is incredible with maps, and he can point on a globe of the earth. The earth is round, and he will point at a country and go, "That is X country, and the capital is Y."
So he could be a cartographer.
Now exactly. Now this kid has got the potential. He could be working in a museum, and he could delve into archaeology. He could go off into like deep map building. There's so many important roles in society where Joseph could thrive. Yet, he now has 10, 15 years of a system that is totally against him, totally not supporting him, and the world could miss out on an incredible opportunity of letting Joseph grow. And I look back on myself with my own potential, and it's one of the big things that I struggle with negativity of going, you can be more, Si. You can be more, not being, satisfied with who I am all the time. And, a lot of the time you can blame yourself. I do. And a lot of the time you can look at your environment and look at situations and opportunities and go, oh, blah, 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 this, and overthink it. But the world has missed out on some beautiful people, beautiful, incredible people, because they've not given them the environment to thrive. And that, for me, is a failure. Big time.
Yeah, massive. It's the reason I started advocating. It's the reason I started doing talks in schools. I would go and do talks in schools, no charge. I didn't want any money. I would drive great distances just to go to a school because for me it was so important to reach these kids, to reach these teachers, to change lives in that way. And I've done it. I used to do photography courses for kids where the parents would bring all their little ND kids, and I would go and teach them photography. On a good day, we'd have 15, 20. On a bad day, we'd have 10, I guess. And it was just so much fun seeing these kids be themselves, be happy, because somebody who actually understood them was actually listening to them. And they were all so different. And it's scary because the upheaval for these kids it just messes. It can permanently mess with your head, as it has done with us. But it begs the question, home or school? Is homeschooling a better option? Because there are schools out there for the more impaired of us, but even they're like gold dust.
Yes.
Like literal, and the fight it's always every day's a fight, isn't it?
It
The
is,
fight to try and get your kids in these schools, they're literally like gold dust. I swear, if I ever won like a big amount on the lottery, if I ever won a big amount on the lottery, that's what I'd do. It would be like Professor Xavier's school for gifted, but I'd make it for ND kids, and I'll call them the X people. X people.
X people. Yeah, why not? You know it. Yeah, preach.
So what do you think? Because it I mean, obviously,
yeah,
I'm
just thinking, obviously, because I'm not a parent, but you know, being a deep thinker, I do think about, you know, do I want to be a parent? Do I want to bring a kid into this world? Do I want to face that fight of being a neurodivergent parent for a neurodivergent child, knowing the school system that I was in and how it failed me and the difficulties that I had with uprooting and stuff? Because I think about when I lived in London, Jordan, I didn't live anywhere for more than 9 months. And I lived there for nearly 8 years. And the reason as to why that was is because I was so used to uprooting myself and just starting again. As soon as any time anything got difficult, I'd just be like, right, I'm just leaving. Just get up and start again and re-hit the start button and just start again. But when I think about homeschooling, I go, I think that's what I'd want to do, you know, because you can teach them in the way that you think works for them rather than tailoring it to lots of other people. But then there is the issue of missing out on socializing. But then you ask the question, what kind of socializing is it going to be? The kind of socializing you want your kid to experience? And people go, oh, but a bit of adversity toughens them up. Does it?
Oh yeah, that's
it's hard. There's so many like counter arguments. I find I just seem to just go back and forth in a circle. So I can only imagine what parents go through.
Yeah, I have to admit, back in the day, I would think about homeschooling and I'd be like, I don't think that's a good idea because kids need to socialize. Kids need to learn, you know, that there are other people that exist in this world, and you know, sometimes they're not always the best. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but why would you put a kid into what is essentially a gladiator, you know, ring full of disaster and danger, and you know, and I think the answer to this is that you know, schools need to be better for the alternative neurotype. They need to be better, because I absolutely would think, yeah, to be honest, I think homeschooling, if it's a possibility, is definitely better. But then, you know, how are you then also preparing your child for the real world? Because the real world, having experienced that as an adult, isn't too different from being in school.
In fact, it's no different at all, in my opinion. If anything, there's just less authority figures to go and complain to.
Yeah. I think the only difference was me and how I would react, you know, being an adult. But saying that, I went from job to job to job. I think I had more jobs than Homer Simpson did.
You've said.
Yeah, it was because of the exact same reason, is that I was not good at socializing. So I went to school, I did all that. It didn't make me an expert socializer. It actually made me a traumatized, messed up, angry individual who only just about survived through it all because of my amazing wife, who literally saved me. So, you know, is school good? No, it's bloody awful. Is the right school good? Yes, if you can find it and if you're lucky enough to be born in the right area or have access to the right area or have access to someone who actually listens to you or cares enough. And it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be a lottery. It shouldn't be, oh, I got lucky, I got fortunate. It shouldn't be that.
Postcode lottery, yeah.
It should just be standard, you know. Okay, you've got an ND kid. Let's do all we can. I mean, I saw, in fact, I can read out some comments on a post I did.
Oh, his glasses are on, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh yeah, glasses are on. Blind old man. In our experience, the quest for support is far more stressful and exhausting than just managing without any support. How crazy is that? it's more stressful getting support than not having the support at all. A bit like with the ADHD meds. It's actually, like you were saying, it's more stressful having to find them than just going, do you know what? I think I could just choose some alternatives for the time being and not go through that stress.
Which is what I'm doing at the moment, and I'm getting by, but it's not ideal.
It's quite, trying to get support as an autistic adult is just as hard. All of the services are either not fit for purpose or are broken. I have over 100 comments, all saying roughly the same thing. Therapy services are good distance travel unless through school. My son is 21 and helping him has always been a fight. Why? Why is the word fight used for any kid with any disabilities, for any adult with any disabilities? This is 2024. What are we doing, people? I mean, where's the compassion? Where is their empathy?
Yeah,
Where's their empathy for us? My son has been on the wait list for 14 years. 15 years. He just got a letter saying it's finally his turn, had to fill out all the paperwork. We needed help then when he was little, not now. 15 years. And now, only now is the diagnostic assessment started. 15 years they've been battling. That is a snippet of the amount of comments that are just all roughly the same. And yeah, it's got to change. Something's got to change
in a big way. Come on, we'll try and figure it out. Let's have a positive. Do you have a positive time where you had a teacher who did something for you or was supportive in a way that had a really big impact? Because I can think of one quite quickly.
The only person in my life that has been a teacher to me that I've actually learned things from was my wife, and later my kids. You know, it's difficult for me to trust people around me. You know, we talked about demand avoidance last week. That demand avoidance, you know, affects everything in my life, and especially affects who I trust. You know, I don't really trust. It takes a lot for me to trust. So I don't trust people in general, let alone what people say to me. So the other person I've actually learned things from is my friend Rick. I learned when I taught myself photography. I was already a well-established photographer, but he taught me about light and the use of light and patience. He taught me patience in photography, something I did not have, and it hugely improved my photography. So there are people out there that I have listened to, but only because I fully trust that person. If I don't fully trust that person, then yeah, good luck, naff off. I'm not interested. So no, I don't remember any teacher ever having, you know, like a Dead Poet Society moment with me. That just never happened for me. But it did happen for my kids. I know that there was one teacher in particular that Sophie absolutely adored, and she got a lot of support with her English, and she absolutely was amazing. Despite the fact that Sophie's an atheist and this lady is like a diehard Christian, like it just goes to show you that, you know, at the end of the day, religion doesn't really matter as long as you just get on. You can be loving, you can be friendly, you can just put those differences aside. And yeah, she was really, really supportive of Sophie. And I know that Simon was really struggling with maths to the point where we nearly got him a tutor. But he got a new teacher, and she saw his potential, saw he was struggling, and taught him in a different way. And he ended up his maths GCSE was one of the highest grades that he got.
I love that. That's wicked. Yeah. No, that's wonderful. It is good that there is some positivity, because I think back to it. I had an English teacher who was called Mr. Hardacre who got me, and he ended up putting me near the front of his class because he realised how engaged I was. He was great. And he actually really helped me get through year 11 because I used to have a lot of lads that I used to really struggle with at school. And he went to bat for me a handful of times. But probably the teacher that had the most influence on me was my year 4 teacher called Mrs. Exley. I moved to this new school and was finding it really hard to fit in. And she put me in theatre. And that changed my life. It gave me a lot of confidence. It gave me social skills. It gave me a hobby, and it helped me really find myself. So even though, I've had a lot of difficult situations at school, there are names of teachers here I could tell to F off quite easily thinking about it. But no, Mrs. Exley was great, and so was Mr. Hardacre. They were two teachers that I absolutely loved having at school. They helped me get through it when I think back to it now. And but then, unfortunately, they're just two names that I can think of out of maybe 20, 30, 40 teachers that I had. I mean, I've had teachers in life. I've worked with some great people. And my parents have been great teachers for me as well. My partner, Caris, has taught me a lot about myself in the time that we've been together. So there are a lot of positive influences in my life. Unfortunately, few and far between are from school. Oh, and Jordan James as well. Yeah, of course, he's great. No,
Wow.
Oh, come off. You know what I mean. But yes, you have helped me very much with learning about myself and with neurodivergent. You're in front of me. I find it very hard to compliment people that are in front of me. Come on, don't be like that.
No, I'm not talking to you now. I'm just. I was sitting here. Wait, he was got a Caris. I was like, I'm next. I'm next.
But you
and
know,
you blanked
the
me.
influence that you've had on me and helped me. Oh,
no, I don't know anything because you haven't told me. You haven't told me how much you love me. No.
Oh.
Rejection sensitivity dysphoria.
Don't say that.
You've RSD'd me.
Don't say that. You make me feel really bad now.
Yeah. Good. Well, okay. So I did promise that I was going to talk about. I did promise I was going to talk about my kids and then move from primary to secondary school. So my advice out there to parents that can't homeschool or homeschool is not an option is that when your kid moves from primary to secondary school, that is going to be the biggest shock to the system. In fact, I think there are a lot of undiagnosed, especially girls and AFABs out there who are being completely missed in those younger primary school years. And that's what happened with Sophie and Simon. They were completely missed by the school system because it's not as intense in primary schools because you've got the same class, you've got the same teacher each,
there's a lot more routine, isn't there?
Yeah, you don't have to move from class to class and different lessons, and it's a lot more routine based and it's a lot smaller and a quieter environment. And when they move to the next school, that is a shock to the system that I was not prepared for. My kids weren't prepared for properly. And if I could go back and do it again, that is definitely something that I would be doing, is preparing them more, because schools don't do it enough. They should be having more days, tester days in the large school when they're in year 6 to prepare them for year 7. So that is my suggestion out there, is be ready for that, because it is a huge, huge step that your kid might not be showing any difficulties at all. And then suddenly it's like the Cambrian explosion. Life just suddenly appeared, it's like, and then it was, it's like what's the word? I forget words. And this is the neurodivergent experience. I just forget words. It's like an avalanche, It will be like, oh, it's little tiny primary school, and then suddenly it's a boulder smashing you and Indiana Jones in the face. So yeah.
Yes. Very good advice.
I'm fresh out of spoons.
I'm getting there. It's very, very warm today, and I have become part of the chair.
Yeah. Oh, gross. I was like, ooh, no. Wait a minute.
Ooh. Right. Should we do your quote of the week?
Let's do it. Parenting an autistic child can be a challenge, but trying to get help for that child is the ultimate challenge.
Yes. Very, very poignantly put, my friend. If there is a tweet to sum up this episode, I think that is it.
Indeed.
Yes.
What's a tweet?
What is a tweet? Who knows? Is it an X anymore? Who knows? Who truly knows? Well, guys, thank you very much for listening to this week's episode of the Neurodivergent Experience. It took a bit of an emotional turn for me there. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting that.
I'm giving you a mind hug.
Thank you, and I'm giving you a mind hug in return, although I warn you, I'm a bit clammy today.
Clammy minds.
Clammy minds. So, guys, once again, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. If you've loved this episode, please leave it a review. Give us a good subscribe while you're at it. And also, don't forget to check out Autistic Minds Live in Cardiff on the 20th of September. It's a Friday, and we will be performing live an entire episode of this podcast for you, lovely people. So come down, say hello, buy some merch, and take some selfies.
It's free.
Absolutely free.
Come along. It's free. Come and meet me and him if you want.
I'm here as well. I might have a beard. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. Beard.
Beard. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.